God bless you tonight on this holiest of nights, the day we call Good Friday, when we remember what Jesus did for us on the cross. We also remember how good this day really is for us, because it's a day that brought us a victory, brought us life. And yet it was one of the most horrific deaths ever heard of in this world, especially to an innocent man. When we look at the cross and we listen to what was spoken on that cross, we hear the 7 words, or what we call the 7 words, 7 last words of Jesus, gathered from the 4 Gospels. 3 of these expressions are found in Luke's Gospel, 3 in John's, and 1 very powerful expression that comes from Matthew and Mark. As we consider these words, before we close the tomb, to prepare our hearts to celebrate on Easter morning, we think of them being a testimony of a dying man. And a testimony of a dying man often carries a lot of weight, because it's true, especially the words that came from Jesus. And so the first word, the first expression that we consider from Luke's Gospel is Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I have a feeling that there's a lot of ways you can take that in regard to who he was talking about. Obviously, the Roman soldiers were right there doing their work at the foot of the cross. They didn't really know what they were doing other than following orders. Or you had the leadership, the mocking leadership of the Jews, hurling insults. And yet, this word, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, can come across the centuries to all of us who unknowingly nailed Jesus to a cross with our own sin. The second word that we hear, also from the Gospel of Luke, is spoken to a thief. As we know, there were 2, one on each side of Jesus. One of them ridiculed and mocked him, to which the other one rebuked him for saying the things he did, telling him, we deserve what we're getting. This man has done nothing wrong. And that thief looked over at Jesus and said, remember me when you come into your kingdom. To which Jesus showed his heart of grace when he said, today you will be with me in paradise. Jesus never stopped ministering as he just did to the thief, but now he turns his attention to his mother. And in John's Gospel, we hear of him saying the words to his mother, woman, this is your son. And then he says to the disciple, behold, your mother. Jesus honoring his mother even to his last breath. Giving John to her and her to John, knowing that he would be faithful in taking care of his mother once he was gone. The fourth word or expression is one of the most powerful that he ever spoke from that cross, found in Matthew's Gospel and in Mark's. And it's no wonder it's in Matthew's, because he's known as the Gospel writer who quoted the Old Testament the most. And he actually records Jesus saying the very first phrase in Psalm 22. My God, why have you forsaken me? Of course, that was first written by David, and David meant those words for himself, but he was prophesying of the Messiah in this psalm. Later on, we see where he says, a band of evil men has encircled me. They have pierced my hands and my feet. I can count all my bones. People stare and gloat over me. They divide my garments among them and cast lots for my clothing. Those words all came true as Jesus died on the cross and the soldiers cast lots for his clothing. The fifth word, kind of a exclamation, small exclamation, also recorded in John's Gospel. Two little words, I thirst. These words were a punctuation on all of his physical suffering, the only words he spoke about that suffering. Suffering that started when he was questioned and mocked and a blindfold put on and beaten. When he was taken to the Roman soldiers and they scourged him and they made fun of him. They put thorns on his head. They made him carry his cross. While he was bleeding, stumbling, falling, they jeered at him. When he came to that place called Golgotha, the skull, they nailed his feet. They pierced his hands. And they erected him on a cross. The sixth word or expression as we remember it tonight was kind of some final words. They weren't the last, but it was words that came out in relief, in a way. It is finished. It is finished. And what was it that was finished? We can go all the way back to Genesis 3:15, when God promised Satan and said to Satan, and assured Adam and Eve at the same time, I will put enmity between you, Satan, and the woman, between your seed, all of your seed, and hers, singular. He, that seed, will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. Yes, Jesus was bruised for our iniquities. Yeah, he took our punishment. But Satan was defeated when Jesus died on that cross. And that's what made it so, so good. And the final words, also found in Luke's Gospel, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Not the God and Father that he said to a moment ago or earlier, why have you forsaken me? But one he knew he could trust, his heavenly Father, the one who was proud of him, the one who said, this is my beloved Son. He knew he could entrust his spirit into his Father's hands. And after doing so, breathing his last, gave up his spirit on our behalf. After these 7 words were spoken, he was taken down from the cross and hastily put in a tomb. The candle on the altar behind me is a candle that reminds us that Jesus' light still shines. But tonight, as we close the tomb, I remove it for just a short time. And then I'll bring it back after the tomb is closed, reminding us that we have a victory to celebrate. in a few days. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and familiar with suffering, like one from whom men hid their faces. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he took up our infirmities, and he carried our sorrows. Yet we considered him stricken by God, smitten by him, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us all our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.